Superhero films are the norm right now, and I don't really think I ever imagined Vijay Antony to be part of a superhero film. And interestingly, he is not a superhero in this film, but more of the Nick Fury, Alfred kind of a character. Vanakkam and welcome to Cinema Express. This is Avinash Ramachandran, and in this video review episode, we are going to look at Leo John Paul's Margan, starring Vijay Antony, Ajay Dishan, Brigida, and a bunch of other actors. Margan has a very tepid start. The first half hour of Margan doesn't really go anywhere, mainly because it wants to establish the protagonist, who is Vijay Antony, who plays a cop who is a drunkard, who has a reason to be drunk, who's off the force because he has the same reason. There is a flashback that shows that why he is the way he is. All that irregular tropes. You have, like, if you've seen Jitu Joseph's Memories, if you've seen actually many other cops who are disheveled, who are very sad, who are living a very pale shadow of what they were, they have very, very similar backstories. And Morgan also suffers from the same thing. But somehow, half hour later, once the film sets the premise is the fact that you find black and darkened dead bodies all over the city, and Vijay Antony, who plays this character, the cop called Dhruv, he decides to come back to Chennai to investigate this case, which has a very, very personal connect to him. The investigative part starts very, very promisingly, and what leads them to the character of Ajay Dishan is a very, very interesting series of clues. There's a dusty car, there is a partial fingerprint, there is a drug case, there is a dark owl, and then, of course, there are the bodies which are being randomly strewn across the city. And this entire portion is quite fun because it shows us a very intriguing personality. We meet this guy who loves water, like not just to drink, but also loves to be in water, loves the idea of water. He believes that the water is a reflection to everything that constitutes life. There is a neat flashback to him. There is a wonderful superhero space that he enters into. The investigation also uses these abilities of the character to a very, very good extent. See, the thing is, we see him as someone who is a potential spin off character. As in, if someone says that Margan has sequels, I would be completely sold if it's going to be centered around the character played by Ajay Dishan. Vijay Antony's cop can make cameos, but I think the film is titled after Ajay Dishan, and it will be quite some fun to see how Tamil cinema explores this space, because it is very superhero, it is very Indian, it is very rooted in our myths and folklore, and it's quite fun to imagine a superhero like that, as in an investigator like that. It'll be quite fun to see how, if at all the filmmaker wants to make this into a franchise model of sorts. But nevertheless, coming back to the film, as we said, there is a few bodies being strewn here and there. There is a suspect, there is a cop, there is a lot of water, be it in drains, be it in swimming pool, being in diving areas. A lot of things happen, and then, of course, there is a reason why the killings are happening. It is a very personal reason. It is a reason that genuinely has, I wouldn't say merit, because that might be the wrong word considering what they're doing is serial killing. But what they have is a reason that makes sense to them. I think on that note, the film does really work well. Margan goes into some very, very interesting areas. It's nice to see Vijay Antony take a step back and allow the film to be centered around Ajay Dishan. Of course, he is a relative of Vijay Antony. It's almost like a showreel for the young actor, but he does ace that part for most scenes. Of course, there are a few scenes where he does seem to be found wanting, but nevertheless, it is quite an assured debut, and it is around him that the film completely goes. Till the point where the mystery unravels. After that, we have your garden variety flashback to understand why the killings happen. And again, once the killings are happening and you understand why it makes you feel bad, or does it make you feel right for what is happening? Like, let's say you're watching a film like I. Do you feel bad that Vikram is exacting revenge on people? Let's say you're watching a film like Psycho. Do you agree with Mishkin's idea of what really serial kill is all about? I think the concept of serial killing in Margan falls between the ideologies of I and Psycho. Again, even in the investigative portions, after the initial high that happens, a lot of the other follows are very, very convenient. It follows very simple things like you find the CCTV at the right time, you reach the memory palace at the right time, you have the right kind of tools to understand the mental makeup of your serial killer. And a lot of these things feel very, very orchestrated rather than organic. But then it's okay because this film does justice to the idea of a simple serial killer story. It has an intriguing start, it has a very promising premise, it has a very compelling killer, it has a killer with a reason, it has a red herrings, it has one more red herring, and it has a lot of things happening for the film. And of course, there are portions where I would have liked to see more of Vijay Antony actually investigating rather than just reacting to what's happening around him. But then I think it's also a lot of police work is basically being at the right place at the right time kind of a thing here. Also points to the makers for not really taking detours from the central case and making it, adding a song here or adding a romantic angle there. See, we are used to such things happening in our investigative thrillers, so it's nice to see that not happen. Vijay Antony is known for making films that are very unique, as in the premise is unique, and that same thing happens here. You see him half blackened. There's a reason why he's that way. The reason actually gives him a clue to find out what's happening. So it's nothing in this film is out of place per se, mainly because everything connects to what's happening. Every single scene that is added somewhere has a result somewhere else, except the flashback for Ajay Dishan's character. The flashback feels very ordinary compared to what the other things are happening in the film. I think that's where a little more care could have been given to ensure that even that is not something that's very, very ordinary. The story also goes into a rather unexplored places, and it does so with a lot of conviction. I think that is what really makes Margan stand out. It is a conviction. Leo John Paul believes that we will understand what's happening and we will completely surrender to what's happening. See, because it's very easy to question logic in such things. When you're watching a film that is supernatural, you're accepting the fact that there are paranormal things or things like that. But in investigative thriller space, you're not very sure if we could add that element into it, and that is done very, very effectively in Margan. Of course, you can still ask questions about how this happened, that happened, and those questions are very valid. It's easy to ask questions in the film to actually crumble the logical part of it, but then it is supernatural. How can you question logic? I think points to the filmmaker for actually taking this brave attempt. Spoiler alert, I want to talk about the reason why those killings happen. Of course, I will not tell you what exactly is the reason, but the film does make a very, very pertinent point. It talks about the idea of what happens when we are so flippant about labeling people, about stereotyping people, about telling them this is what they can do, about telling this is all they can do, this is what they deserve, nothing else matters. All of these very simple statements, the impact of what it does to people's psyche, the film does deal about a lot of these things. None of us are saints. We've all done that in the past. We've all been guilty of being wantedly mean or saying things that we shouldn't have said. Hindsight is always 2020. We can always look back and think that what we said or what we didn't really come from a place of malice, or we didn't really mean for them to get hurt. But if we have, I think it's time. It's 2025. We can make amends. We can ask our sorries. We can ask them that what we said or what we didn't come from a place of understanding, of knowledge, of awareness. We did mistakes. It's important to acknowledge that. This film talks about a theme that is very, very close to a lot of people's heart. It's about what we can do if we have the power to change things, what we can do if we can look back and say we could have been better people. But then, not being better people or not really doing good by others doesn't mean people turn into serial killers. Of course, we're not going to defend that by any means, by any stretch at all. But in some ways, we do understand where these things come from. Nothing exists in a vacuum in a society. We all are part of what happens around us. We all are integral in what happens to people around us. We accept it or not, we understand it or not, we have a part to play. And some way, I think we have to take a step back to understand what we might have done wrong in the past, and hopefully not do that in the future, and tell the future generations to not do the same mistakes that we did, so that people can just enjoy and have a life that they deserve. Hope you like this video review episode, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe to Cinema Express, and do let us know what you thought about the film and this video review. Until we meet in the next episode on Cinema Express, this is your friendly neighborhood critic Avinash Ramachandran signing off. Tata!